If you're a fractional CMO and hiring for clients has turned into posting job descriptions, screening resumes, and sitting in 5 rounds of interviews, onboarding people step by step, you are doing too much. Hiring is one of the fastest ways to blur your role and lose your boundaries and burn out in this position. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do when it comes to hiring for clients, what I do, what I don't do, and how to stay in the leadership seat instead of sliding into HR or administrative roles. I'm Jashira, fractional CMO, and inside Fractional CMO School, I teach marketers how to package, price, and operate at the CMO level when they work with clients. Today, you're getting the 5 things I actually own when it comes to hiring for clients, the biggest mistakes I see marketers make when they try to help too much, what strategic involvement actually looks like, and the filter I use to decide whether something belongs to me or doesn't when it comes to hiring for my clients. Because yes, hiring impacts marketing performance, but running the hiring process is not the same as leading hiring strategy. So I want to walk you through all of that. So before we get into specifics, here's what I need you to understand. Hiring is strategic. Recruiting is operational. So if you don't separate the two, your fractional role will expand and expand and expand, and you will burn out so quickly. So let's start with what I actually own. And I'm going to sort of caveat here. I'm talking about my bigger package. When I'm working with clients in a full way, I would never do this scope for clients who are in, a mid-tier or smaller package. I go into detail in Fractional CMO School around what I would do for those clients, but just to keep this concise, we'll be focusing on the big clients today. All right. So number 1, I evaluate the current team, and I'm doing this honestly. So the first thing I do is looking at who's currently on the team. What are they responsible for? What's actually working? And where are the gaps? And then if someone's not the right fit, I know it can be really uncomfortable to have those conversations, but we have to be honest with our clients because that's what they're paying us for. They're paying us to show up and be a leader. And sometimes leading is a little uncomfortable. So we really want to be honest because we want to make sure that we're not putting people's feelings ahead of sort of the health of the business. Someone could be a really nice person, but if they're actually hurting the performance of the business and they're not a good fit for the role, it's our job to tell our clients that. So if someone's too junior or someone doesn't have the right strategic experience or the capacity, or there's an agency who's underperforming, or maybe they're overpriced, that's the kind of thing we're going to flag because we just want to make sure that we're putting our clients' business and their needs at the forefront here. Number 2 is I will map the team plan based on budget and stage of the company. So when a client says we need to hire, and sometimes they might even have an idea of a role, I don't immediately jump to, okay, let's get, a posting up. Let's bring someone in. I zoom way out and ask questions like, what are the business goals? What are the revenue targets? What stage are we in? And then what is the available budget? And what are we doing from a marketing perspective? And what skill set gaps do we maybe have? We really want the plan and the work that needs to be done, the most needle moving work to inform the team strategy. So if we have X dollars to invest in team, we want to be advising on the smartest use of those funds. So sometimes that means hiring someone more junior instead of senior if they're working with a limited budget. We might sometimes be looking at a contractor versus an agency versus a full-time hire. Sometimes we will advise on delaying a hire or in speeding things up a little bit. But essentially, what we're doing is helping them figure out how to spend their finite budget for hiring. Number 3, helping them get crystal clear on what they actually need. So this is probably the most important part of hiring, and it's where most clients actually end up making mistakes and get stuck. So, because when a business owner says, I need to hire, what they usually mean is we need help, and they're guessing. They don't necessarily know what they need, what skill set to look for, and how to assess if somebody is any good. So they just start listing off things that they want someone to do. And then you end up sometimes hiring the wrong person because maybe you were trying to hire a unicorn, or maybe you prioritize the wrong skill set that is a nice to have when they're actually weakest in the area that would move the needle the most from a marketing and sales perspective. So it's really important to help them get clear on what are we hiring for? What does this person need to do in terms of moving needles and driving KPIs forward? And We're talking about tasks, but mapping out what KPIs or outcomes should this person be driving? What skill set and experience is required to actually move those numbers or move the needle? Or if we're looking at a job description full of tasks, what things are a must have versus a nice to have? Can someone else fill a certain gap that's maybe not as important? Or can we train them on something? Like, what things do we want to make sure they're coming into the role with versus, maybe just training them or filling in the gap with another person. A lot of the time, the job description becomes this giant, just like marketing mess, marketing list. And the client is confused why the hire maybe isn't performing, or they've hired someone and they're just trying to get them to do way too many things and setting that person up for failure before they've even started. So again, I'll help them prioritize. If you could only get one thing solved in the next 90 days, what would it be? Is it lead flow, conversion, retention? And often I'm making a recommendation here based on where the company's at and what I think the lowest hanging fruit is and biggest opportunity for growth and winning. And then we build the role around that. And that is how you're helping them make smart hires, not hiring just anybody. Number 4, I will guide compensation package structure. So whether we're looking at an agency, a contractor, or a full-time role, compensation is something that clients usually don't have a ton of experience around. So I help them. And if you don't know this, that's okay. You'll learn it over time the more that you do this. But the things that you want to be looking at and thinking about and advising your clients on are things like, what should this level of talent cost? Or what's the average cost for a paid ads agency? Or what's realistic for this market? What's too high? What's too low? What can we expect at this level of compensation? I had a client last year who was hiring for a marketing generalist role just to come in and help execute on a bunch of different things across their e-commerce business. And they had a really small budget. And so I basically mapped out for them and I said, at this budget, you're really going to get a marketing coordinator. They're going to have about this level of experience and they'll be able to do these things. If you can bump it up 10, 15K, you'll be able to get this mid-level, which will get you these extra things here. And so really helping them think through who they're hiring and the expectations that they can have around the money that they're spending on the role. Okay. And one thing I want to make really clear here is I'm not negotiating compensation packages. That's an HR job. I'm just advising on what it should be. A little caveat, sometimes with agencies, I will negotiate a little bit if I'm in the final stages of talking with them. But that's a little different, of course, than going through a formal full-time hire. And it's pretty straightforward. Okay, number 5 is I guide in red underline, the evaluation process. I do not run it. So this is where people can very quickly go outside of scope and be burning out. When we're hiring for a role, we as the CMO, we're not posting, we're not collecting resumes, we're not filtering through resumes, we're not scheduling interviews, none of that. That is all HR, admin, operations. I step in and I will review the top candidates. I will flag strengths, concerns. I might help craft interview questions, the initial ones that I want HR to kind of go through. And I will often join final stage interviews if it's appropriate. So meeting with them, the top candidates, and really diving that next layer deeper into their experience. Then the other thing too is I always advocate for test projects. And depending on the scope, I might put a test project together for my client, like, hey, we're hiring this social media person. Let's get them to do XYZ just to get a sense of their skill set before we bring them on. Because sometimes people can look really good on paper and then you see their work and they're not a fit. So that is something I never, ever, ever, ever skip when I hire for literally any role. But I'm not the one sharing details or being the main point of contact liaising with the candidates. We don't want to get into that. I'm not running the first round screenings. I'm not sending in 10 interviews a week. I'm not managing recruiters. Like, I'm not doing anything admin related to hiring. That is all HR and operations. And a quick note I wanted to add here on recruiters is if a client doesn't have internal support to manage this hiring process, what I don't want you to do is just step in and absorb it. And I see that mistake all the time. Marketers seeing a gap in a client's business and just being like, well, I can do this. I'm going to just fill this gap. I'll just do it because I can and I know how. And that is how you burn out. That is where most people make mistakes and end up way overworking. And then you only have so much time in the day. You can't take on more clients. And so you're really limiting your earning capacity. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. The solution is not, hey, we don't have support, so I'll just do it. It's bringing in somebody. So in this case, bringing in a recruiting partner that you trust. So building up those relationships so you have somebody that you can recommend if a client needs it. And that really protects your role and protects your boundaries. So I'm just going to recap what I do not do as a fractional CMO. I'm not posting job descriptions. I'm not sifting through hundreds of resumes. I'm not running first round or screening interviews, not coordinating recruiters daily, maybe a little bit of high level. I'm not sitting in endless interview rounds. No, no, no. I'm not onboarding new hires step by step. I'm not training junior team members daily. And all of that is so important. And something to think through too is you want to make sure when you're bringing this person on, they're really clear on outcomes, KPIs, reporting cadence, but we're not the ones doing the day-to-day onboarding, managing their to-do list, their daily workload. If you're stepping into that, you're now getting into marketing management or project management territory. So we want to make sure we're really careful there as well. Now, I promised you a filter. So a filter that I use to figure out, is this a CMO task or not? If the task requires coordination, scheduling, repetition, or admin, I say that's operational. If the task requires judgment, prioritization, decision-making, or strategic thinking, that is CMO. So hiring strategy, me. Recruiting execution, not me. Operating at the CMO level is not just about landing clients. It's about knowing how to lead once you're inside the business. Team planning, hiring decisions, making hard calls, protecting your boundaries. This is what separates someone who helps with marketing from somebody who leads it. And that is exactly what you learn inside Fractional CMO School. Not just how to get clients, but how to actually operate and work with them at different package levels once you are working with them so that you're not burning out. If that's what you want, check the link below. And in the next episode of this series, I will break down another area where CMOs accidentally overdeliver and how you're going to fix it.